Ray Mann. I'm a musician and a visual artist from Sydney, and I've been in Berlin now for 2 years. For me, it was the most obvious thing in the world. Like, this is one of the places in the world where artists go to be artists. I first came to Berlin about 9 years ago, just when I was traveling around Europe randomly, and I was very inspired and very influenced by a lot of the music I was hearing in different bars and cafes I was hanging out in. And I went back to Sydney and started this music project and this band with all of that experience in mind. I have one life to pursue my art in, so why kick around my backyard when I can really get out there and see what am I made of and how does my ability stack up on a world level. From the second I got here, I hit the ground running. So I got out, and that boldness of getting out and meeting people and organising whatever concerts and, you know, putting on my first art exhibition like 2 months after I get here and stuff. Like, all of these things I did, I wouldn't have done in Sydney, and some of them would have been a lot more difficult in Sydney, and some of them I just wouldn't have felt as motivated to do in Sydney. I think the biggest positive and the biggest negative is money. The fact that there isn't a lot of it going around. Depending on how you choose to approach that, it can either be the most stressful thing or it can be the most exciting thing. And I personally definitely oscillate between the two. Well, definitely I'm not surviving off of my music. I think last year I was the most broke I've ever been in my life. And that just affected everything. It affected my mood, it affected my art, it affected how I related to people. And of course, it made me question every day, what am I doing here? What am I going through this for? It feels so good. It feels so good to me. It feels so good. I learned two things very quickly. Number one, things aren't just gonna happen. Just by being here, that's not mission accomplished at all. And number two, if that's the case, it means that you're gonna have to struggle anonymously for a while. I think it can be a rough town. And I think people don't expect it to be, which is maybe why they just defeated by Berlin.
My name's Rick. I produce electronic music and DJ. There's a dynamism about the city, a constant change that a lot of people sort of make their own and then go away. I came to Berlin, first of all, by chance in 2005, and then ended up performing every year since then. And then I guess in 2008 or 2009 decided to make the move permanently. It started off as a bit of a musical love affair, but it wasn't long before Berlin just came to feel like home for a lot of other reasons, I suppose. Its livability, its simplicity, and its kindness to me. There's a space here that you can diversify, build your own voice. And that voice doesn't necessarily need to be commercially viable. I don't really know how to describe it, but in Berlin there's a sense that there is time to do what you want to do. Berlin is littered with unorthodox spaces that require a certain amount of creative energy to make livable or usable, and then in turn spawn a lot of uniquely creative projects. There's a high quantity of amazing musicians who really have their heads screwed on right, and who've grown up in Germany, who've grown up in Berlin, and maybe that's because they've seen so much change. Maybe that's because you can't take your role as a musician for granted. It behooves you to have a certain amount of decency. For the first time, I've got a community of musicians around me who are all locals, and I've never had this experience before. a spirit of sort of collaboration and exchange and an ongoing conversation. My biggest challenge still remains learning German, I think. And here the winters can be pretty kind of hardcore, which is not bad in itself, but just learning to adapt, like to put on weight in winter, to get active in summer, and just roll a little bit more with nature is a big challenge as an Australian. I think Berlin works for people that are a little less hasty to make names for themselves, because the city also reacts against a certain type of artists that demand instant cred. You know, I've got a lot of friends who've moved to Berlin thinking that the city will make you an artist, but artistic growth can happen anywhere.
My name is Kat Frankie and I'm a musician. When I came to Berlin, I felt like I was instantly welcomed as part of a community, and that kind of changed everything for me. Like, I'd written songs all my life when I was a kid. Like, my mom has recordings of me when I was like 4 years old, making up weird songs. There's songs about Jesus and sheep and rainbows and stuff. It's bizarre. And it was something that I did my whole life, and it wasn't until I got here that I realized that actually that could be a career. That could be something that I get to do all the time.
I've never seen the kids live like this.
It's just this sort of sense of community that kind of makes it easy to get your foot in the door, and then what you do with that is up to you. But I think it's pretty easy to get something started here. Berlin's not interested in making you rich and famous. Berlin is just, you know, interested in kind of helping you be creative so that you can contribute.
Always seems I'll never live through it.
When I speak to people from other German cities, they always say things like, oh, you're really anonymous in Berlin, you're just a number, people are really difficult here. But I don't think it's true. I think if you're new in town, you just need to go to a lot of gigs and meet a lot of people. Like, people I don't know come and talk to me all the time. So I don't think it's so hard to speak to people that you don't know. So probably the biggest challenge is to keep focus in a city where everyone's doing everything all the time. There's always something new and fascinating and attractive and different. That first year I was here, I wrote a lot of music because I was just trying to cope and I was just trying to understand it all. And when I write songs, I'm really trying to describe a feeling. And I think I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what's going on here. Also, I don't want to be dogmatic about the way that I make music. I mean, there's so many wonderful instruments and so many beautiful sounds, like Bina, the harmonium. Bina makes such an incredible, powerful, heartbreaking, gorgeous sound. I'm going to use that. But then people get mad because you're not the girl with the guitar in the corner of the cafe anymore. I mean, I did that. I loved it, but to repeat myself for the rest of my life playing the same stuff would be stupid. You would go crazy. It's been nearly 9 years. It's been a long time, and I'm still independent. I have my own record label now, and it's sustainable now. It means that I can play concerts and get paid and use that money to make the next album and continue doing what I love. I think if I had have told my parents, I want to quit my job and become a musician, I think my mum would have killed me. But somehow in Berlin it's a little bit more accepted to be impractical in the pursuit of creativity.
Won't you come for me across the line, and I'll hold my heart if only.
Hallo Berlin, du bist schön und du bist schwierig. Ich habe viel gelernt und ich lerne mehr. Und Entschuldigung, mein Deutsch ist beschissen. Tschüss.
Berlin. Du bist sehr hübsch aber ganz anspruchsvoll. Aber du bist schon immer meine Mutter. Und ich danke dir.
Hallo Berlin. Wir kennen uns schon, aber ich liebe dich nicht. Ich mag deine Kellen und Nachtleben und Musikern und Leuten. Aber ich liebe dich nicht. Ich muss das sagen. Ich bleibe hier gern, ich arbeite hier gern. Aber du bist schön, aber total voll ungesund, muss ich sagen.
Won't you come for me across the line? And I'll hold my heart if only, 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 only.
Our